So we have finally arrived at the episode that was going to give us the battle between Kenshin and Saito, and this anime had a lot to live up to, and we're going to talk about it, man. We're going to talk about it in many different ways. There's only one episode of the season left, just one more before the season finale, which is crazy to think about. It feels like it's gone so fast, but if you think about it, it also premiered back in the summer. So we're here, man. We're almost at the end of December. So let's talk about Rurouni Kenshin, the new anime, episode 23, man. So last time we got the introduction of Saito, and again, I'm going to try not to spoil things for people that are experiencing this for the first time, but let's talk about Saito, all right? So he sets up this whole scenario where Kenshin goes and gets distracted with Agamatsu, who's just a throwaway assassin character, right? And Saito takes himself to the doorstep of the Kamiya Dojo. He walks right in his police officer uniform. They let him in right away. He says, oh yeah, someone's after Kenshin. You know, I want to make sure that he's all right. Do you mind if I wait here for him? They're like, oh yeah, come right in. The man has his katana on him the entire time. And basically all this was a display to show that, you know, this life Kenshin has built as a wanderer is not sustainable in many ways, especially with the people that could possibly be coming after him, right? When Kenshin returns, Saito straight up tells him, look, I could have killed these people at any time. You think that your life as a wanderer is working out and you're protecting these people and you're saving them, but look what could have just happened. He's like, I didn't do it. It's one of those moments where it's like, I didn't do it, but I could have, and there's nothing you could have done about it. So he's basically displaying that by having these people around, by, you know, having this connection that he's built that has saved him from so much of his like traumatic past, also can all be taken away in an instant. And it allows him to be in this situation where these people are vulnerable, and it also makes him vulnerable as well, because he could have very well come home to the corpses of Kaoru and Yahiko, Megumi, Sanosuke. Saito could have killed everybody. And that was the point that he wanted to show him, as well as mentioning, you know, you say that you've done so well protecting people, but what about when Janae captured Kaoru? What about when Megumi was with the Oniwaban group? And he's like, what about Yutaro's arm that has got a significant, you know, wound that he'll never be able to heal from completely? You say that you've been doing so good protecting all these people, but what has actually happened here? And it really kind of puts things in a different perspective, you know, when you think about it and think about the things Kenshin has been trying to do. And although Kenshin has made a lot of great strides in his life, you know, he can't deny that, yeah, all these people were put in horrible positions, a lot of them by the result of his existence here. And though it's not 100% stated in this episode what Saito is actually doing just yet, so I don't want to reveal, you know, who he actually stands for or what he's actually doing, but it definitely sets that into motion. And, you know, he talks about some of his philosophy here, which is interesting. And one of the things you got to learn about Saito is he's a man that's very, very true to his convictions, right? Whereas Kenshin has changed a lot over the last 10 years, after the war has ended, Saito, in many ways, is a stagnant character. He doesn't really have, at least not as crucial of development as Kenshin does, because he very, very much stays true to what he always has. He's a traditionalist. And if you think about it, with the Shinsengumi during the war, that was their whole point, is they were trying to keep Japan traditional. They were trying to keep it, you know, authentic. They were trying to live up to this, like, long-standing, you know, history and heritage and everything. So, like, he is very, very much a traditional person, and he breaks down his philosophy, which might have had a strange translation if you were reading the subtitles, so if you don't know, he basically said Akusoku Zan, which translates to slay evil immediately. That's not to fuck around, not to waste time. When there is evil, when there is something that disrupts, you know, the way things should be, it should be taken out immediately. And that's also reflected in his attack, the Gatotsu, which is this, you know, super fast, like hypersonic thrust that is meant to kill an opponent with one strike. It's meant to be quick, efficient, get it done. If you want to, you know, put Saito in like D&D terms, you know, you could say chaotic good, right? It's just like the Punisher, like just fucking kill him, be done with it, right? So that's kind of like the beginning of where his philosophy came from. And he goats Kenshin here into a fight for several reasons, which, you know, we'll get into more probably in the next episode when I talk about that. But the thing that you have to recognize too about like what this fight means for the series and what it means for Kenshin is that Kenshin, for the first time since the series began, we're seeing Kenshin fight somebody that is completely on his level. Like Saito and Kenshin both have history together. They fought together and they fought against each other in the past. And also, you know, when Kenshin begins to fight Saito, he kind of reverts back to how it was during the war. Like, he doesn't have a split personality. It's not like he shifts into like a completely different persona, but it's more like that feeling of reminiscing of the war times, of being back in a battle. It's like everything else doesn't, it's like the whole world disappears. And the only thing that exists in front of you is this fight. And that's kind of what Kenshin fell into in this moment. And the episode took a lot of time to showcase Kaoru's reaction to this and Kaoru trying to protect Kenshin, which I really, really appreciate. I think it's one of the most important and strongest aspects of their relationship is that they ground each other. You know, they are protectors of one another. And just as if Kenshin protects Kaoru, you know, if she was in some kind of physical danger, Kaoru very much protects Kenshin's mental state. You know, she's like his spiritual protector in many ways. She recognizes that he's not that person. She didn't know who that person was, but she recognizes he's not that person. And she knows that he doesn't want to be that person. So she does everything she can to protect him from being that person, which is something about their relationship that I really, really like and I really, really admire. So that is what the emotion of the fight is meant to be. And I do think that the episode here in the new anime definitely captured that emotion. I think it captured the emotion of Saito's directness and efficiency. I think it captured the emotion of Kenshin slowly being lured back into like that primal state of mind of who he was as the Batosai. I think it also really captured well Kaoru's, you know, protection of him, not wanting him to do that. I also think it was great for Yahiko, because Yahiko's never seen Kenshin really get bodied the way that he did in this episode. Like, the very first attack, you know, Kenshin dodges, and then Saito does the Gototsu upwards and literally stabs through him. Like, Kenshin's never been that fucked up before, you know, not even against Aoshi. So that was a really profound thing for Yahiko to see, too, who looks up to Kenshin as this, you know, legendary warrior, to see there are some other people out there that are just as strong as Kenshin is and can even get the one up on him sometimes. And although I think the episode was good overall, I don't think it holds up to the 90s version. And I'm not saying that based on nostalgia bias. I am saying that, look, from a purely aesthetic and intensity point of view, I think the 90s version did way better. I think that the cinematography of it looked better. I think you could follow the fluid motions of the characters better. The music was better. And it felt more intense because they were able to take a little bit of pause, whereas this episode does have to have the fight happen in the second act, which it basically happens in one act in the previous version as well. But the differences, because I like to bring up the differences between both versions, in the original 90s, there was a cliffhanger right when Kenshin gets stabbed. Right when Kenshin jumps in the air and Saito stabs him, it was like this big slowed down moment of like, Kenshin just got stabbed. What the fuck? And then the episode ends. And then it goes back into it the next one. This time, the event still happens, but there isn't quite as much emphasis on how big of a deal it is that Kenshin gets stabbed. Or like just avoids the stab and gets sideswiped. You know, whatever happens. You know what I mean. The fight is also different here than in the manga a little bit, because when Kenshin blocks the Gototsu and hits Saito in the back of the neck, which, by the way, if Kenshin did have a real sword, not a reverse blade sword, he would have killed Saito there. Just saying. I love Saito, but I'm just saying, if it was a real sword, he'd be dead. Actually, if it was blunt, he probably still would be dead, but, you know, anime logic. It's okay. Anyways, in this new version, he gets knocked outside the dojo, and they have the continuation of their fight outside, whereas in the manga and in the original 90s version, the entire fight takes place inside the dojo. Now, I can't call this fight bad, because, like I said, for me, I'm a character person. I really care about if it captures the emotion of the scene, what the characters are going through, and the storyline at play. And I think this episode really does at least get you to understand what is happening in the story from every character's point of view, which is the most important thing. I also think the fight scene itself is good for an anime fight scene. But when you hold it up to the previous version of this fight, it just doesn't compare. And I was really hoping that this episode would be like the episode of the 2023 version of Kenshin, to be like, okay, now we are moving into this next stage. Now we are moving into this next level. This could be on par with the original. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Now, I'm not hating. That's not to say that I don't enjoy this version. I absolutely do. I'm a Kenshin fan. I love seeing the story unfold. And I can't wait to see the Kyoto arc again. I'm super, super stoked for it. And there were a lot of things about this episode I liked. So I don't want you to get the wrong impression. I don't want you to think that I disliked it. Okay? I'm just saying, for me, and I'm trying to even pull like nostalgia bias out of it. I'm looking like purely aesthetically at how the fight was conceptualized, shot by shot, like how it was made. And I just don't think they quite got there. But regardless, I did enjoy this episode, and I was getting very, very hyped, especially right before Kenshin and Saito fought, when they were like talking to each other, explaining their philosophies. You know, like, I was excited, man. I fucking love this shit. So I love Kenshin, and this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning of the real story. This is the prelude, man. Like, there's the whole Kyoto arc is so crazy. This is just the fucking prelude. So if you're a new Kenshin fan and you like this, you got a lot to look forward to. That's what I gotta say. So yeah, I'm a bit mixed overall. I enjoyed the episode. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. So let me know what you guys think down below. Leave your thoughts, comments, opinions about this episode of the series. What did you think of the fight? If you're a new Kenshin fan, tell me honestly, really, really give me your thoughts about what you thought. I'm curious. So let me know. Thanks for watching. As always, guys, one more left next week, and then we gotta call it a day on season 1 of Kenshin. So yeah. Might shed a tear next week. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you.